What's going on, guys? Football week is here. Clowns week. You know I like it to call like the Clowns week. And I'm excited. Football's finally here. I know we all have been waiting for football. And Behind Enemy Lines is one of my favorite segments. And as the year goes by, I'm gonna try to do them live as much as I can. And sorry, dude, I literally did a workout, took a quick shower, and came here for this live stream. But I'm gonna try to do live streams as much as I can for Behind Enemy Lines. Why? Because I want to have a chance for you guys to ask questions if you guys can. I'm gonna try to keep it around an hour, and also I'll push back on my guests, but not as much as you might see me some other times, right? Because the idea is to learn more from your opponent, right? So I'm trying to bring YouTubers, podcasters from the other team, so they can tell you, okay, this is what the Browns are gonna do in this situation, that situation. That's what Behind Enemy Lines is. If you guys have any questions, ask. My guest is here. Go sure and ask it. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to go through all of them. I'm gonna try, but hey, let's have fun with it. And my co-host for AFC North Talk is here, Mr. the one and only Quincy Carrier.
I won't deny it. I know y'all craving week one. Guess who about to beat the Ravens?
Oh no. Okay, let's mute him. Let's mute him right now. Anyway, Quincy is here. Shout out to Quincy. Quincy, where they can find you before we start?
Make sure you guys find me on YouTube, QuincyCarrier.com or QuincyCarrier.com, YouTube.com/Quincy Carrier. I'm not big enough to own YouTube yet, so make sure you find me there. If that's too much for you, if you don't want to type in your address bar, or you don't even know where your address bar is because you're younger than a millennial, go to the search. Just go to Google Quincy Carrier. I'll pop up. You'll see my ugly face there.
And if you are even more lazier than that, in the description box, there's a link for Quincy's Twitter and YouTube channel. So let's get started with this. Look, last year there was obviously the two normal games from the Cleveland and the Ravens, and there was two different outcomes, right? The early year Browns, I want to say the Browns played early in the season better than they did as the year progressed. I would say more the Ravens changed. There were some added players and all that. But regardless, from last year to this year, what is your expectations? How the Browns are hoping to attack on offense the Ravens team?
So if you remember that week 4 game, how the Browns attacked on offense, I don't think it's going to be that much different than that. You're going to see some play action. You're going to see a lot of running the ball. You're going to see the ball going to tight ends a ton. Like that's what it's going to be. Baker Mayfield during training camp this year, he's probably taken like 10% of his snaps from the shotgun. Everything else has been under center. So that's more or less what you're going to see out the Browns this week. A run-heavy, twin tight end offense that is going to run the ball a lot and play action a lot. So it's going to be kind of a Shanahan offense with some twist in there. I do fear that they're going to do a lot of end arounds because they practice a lot of end arounds. Not been successful in camp, so I hope that deters them from doing them in the game. But I do think they're going to try to add some wrinkles in with some end arounds here. But I would expect them to keep it simple with the play action and, the quarterback under center.
Okay, so one thing that surprised me, because I went and watched both games before this stream, this week. And the one thing that I was trying to see is what changed. And what it looked to me that the game changed was the Ravens' key on stopping Chubb. That was the priority. Now, the reality was from week 4 to week 12, I think it was, the difference was they had 3 really good corners, so they were able to just put man up the wide receivers and then just make sure Chubb didn't kill them, because in week 1, I have the stat here, Chubb ran for 165 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Jarvis Landry had 167 yards on 8 receptions, right? And that was because it was Marlon Humphrey, Jimmy Smith wasn't here, Marcus Peters wasn't here. The construct on the following game was Chubb had 15 carries, so only 5 carriers less, but only 45 yards. Landry had 7 catches. I think that's what Landry's going to do. He's a volume catcher, and if you let him loose, then he will put up the yardage. So Landry still had a good game, and the rest of the receivers had similar games. So the question is, and Odell obviously had a subpar game in that game. So my question to you, you tell me they're going to be under center, heavy dose of play action and all that. Other than Chubb, right? Because obviously he's running back one. Who do you think is going to be Baker's favorite target to go? Or is he more tending to go to the slant or the slot position with Landry, or is he going to try to force Odell? Or you think, based on camp, is Hooper the guy that they're thinking that that's where they're going to feed them?
So, an interesting thing you mentioned there. You mentioned the two guys who had the biggest game that people remember, like that was the reason why the Browns run, right? Jarvis Landry, Nick Chubb. That's been the focus of that game because they had the two most kind of exciting stat lines. But somebody I want you guys to look up in that game that I think was actually a bigger factor than those who obviously Chubb made the big plays, but I think the guy who ended up making all that get opened up was somebody named Ricky Seals Jones.
I knew you were going to bring up.
Yeah. So he had like 3 catches for about 87 yards or something in the touchdown that game. And I say that because that's the thing that the Browns did special in that game that they didn't do in the game at the end of the season, was that at the end of the season, they had no faith in their tight ends. They had no tight ends that were healthy. Like their tight end room was an absolute mess. So they weren't able to use that. So the run game was easy to get clogged up because the linebackers weren't really worried about a threat coming from that tight end room, and they also didn't use as many tight ends at the end of the season. And I think that's going to be the big factor when it comes to this game. So it might be Harrison Bryant. It might be Austin Hooper. Those are going to be the 2 starting tight ends for this team. I don't anticipate it being David Njoku, but who knows at this point. It could even be David Njoku, but I think somebody at that tight end position, if the Browns want to win this game, is going to have to step up, is going to have a bigger game than people expect. And I think that's where they're going to look at. You look at what the Browns are going to be able to do here. You have inexperience at free safety and you have inexperience at linebacker on this Ravens team. You're going to need to take advantage of that with these play action plays. And who's going to be probably the most open? Probably going to be your tight ends because of the inexperience on that specific part of the defense. And I think that's where you can hit the Ravens a little bit on that defense, especially early on before those players kind of get their, let's call it, sea legs underneath them. So that's, I think, going to be the most important thing. Can Baker Mayfield get the ball consistently to his tight ends? Because I think if he can do that, everything else on this offense starts to open up a little bit more.
Yeah, and interesting, I think where the Browns have the biggest gain, it's very underrated. I talk about this extensively in my channel, is offensive line, because everything starts with the offensive line. I don't care if you have Peyton Manning behind you or Tom Brady or whoever. If you have a crappy offensive line, doesn't matter who your quarterback is, they're going to suffer. And let's be honest, the Browns had 2 bad tackles last year. The interior of the O-line was better. I want to say they're top of the league, but better than the tackle position. They upgraded both, right? They took their rookie out of Bama. They brought Coughlin from Tennessee. So what has been the report on Cam? Because the good thing for Wills, right? He's going against Myles Garrett. It doesn't get better than that. That's your practice week in, week out. If you can slow down Garrett, there's no containing Garrett, but if you can slow down Garrett, you're ready for whoever. So what have you heard from the O-line for the Browns?
Jack Conklin's looked great so far. Wyatt Teller has looked improved. Even the rookie center that we have in there, because J.C. Treader is recovering from a knee scope. He might be back for week 1, but if Nick Harris has to step in, I feel pretty confident about him. Obviously, Joe Bitonio's an all-pro caliber left guard. Don't really worry about him that much as long as he's healthy. And then you have Jedrick Wills, who has looked up and down in camp. Now, let's be fair to the rookie moving over to the left side for the first time in his career. He's not had like the nicest welcoming party. Like he's had to go against Olivier Vernon, who's a veteran. And then like when you take a break from Olivier Vernon, Myles Garrett, which he's not going to see many other ends in this league that are better and more freakish than Myles Garrett. So, he has looked a little up and down. What I'm going to say that I'm going to expect from Jedrick Wills is the same thing that I expected from him the day that the Browns drafted him, which is he's going to be a young tackle. He's going to hold. He's going to have some false starts. Like these things are going to happen. It's going to be frustrating at times, but is he going to be the push bunny that Greg Robinson was back there? No, I think he'll secure things. Is he going to be the sack magnet that, Chris Hubbard was last year, against a 45-year-old Cameron Wake? Like it still bugs me what happened week 1 with that offensive line. But no, I don't think that's going to happen. Also, I think that with the right side being better and with the other sides of the offensive line being better in the tight end position specifically being better. I mentioned this earlier. The tight end position was very weak. I think that really factored into the protections because, again, remember that offensive line in 2018 wasn't considered bad. It was the same exact offensive line in 2019, except for they took away all of the good blocking tight ends off this offense. So when you did that, it opened up some holes in that offensive line. Now they're bringing the tight ends back. You have Austin Hooper, who's a solid blocker. Harrison Bryant used to play fullback at Florida Atlantic as well as tight end. He can block pretty well. And you also have guys like Stephen Carlson you can put in their block. And then, if you want to throw out David Njoku out wide or something to have him catch something, you could throw him out there. Maybe people believe he's going to block there. But, yeah, I think the tight end position being there and being more full is going to help the protection of this offensive line look more aligned to what they did in 2018, let alone the fact that they have a massive upgrade on the right side with Jack Conklin, because I cannot express for you how bad of a pass blocker, specifically Chris Hubbard was. He was okay against the run, terrible pass blocker. And, Baker Mayfield had an average of 2.2 seconds, I believe, or 2.3 seconds, which is at the bottom of the league when it comes to pocket time. Yeah, shout out to Pro Football Reference for that stat. But,
nice.
But that was the biggest problem for the Cleveland Browns. I think I said it last year. They took away the tight ends. It hampered the protection. Now they upgraded the position from a personnel standpoint, and they're bringing the tight ends back. I think they'll have more success this year.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm expecting is Hooper to line up more on the left side to help Wells as he's transitioning. Look, I gave pass to rookies all the time. They are rookies. You cannot compare Wells, even if he becomes an all-pro in the future. In his rookie year, they're all going to make mistakes. It's very rare that a rookie doesn't make mistakes. Also, for Wells, and this is, I know you know this, Quincy, but for my Ravens viewers right now, think about the rookie is facing Calais Campbell, savvy veteran. He knows how to move. He knows how to make the buy in and go out and in. And I'm expecting Wink to throw a lot of things to confuse the rookie on the left side. Now, on the tight end position, I think this is where Jimmy Smith will help. Now that everybody's healthy on week 1, I think they're going to try to put Jimmy Smith on the tight end over there next to the line. And he's been doing that on camp against Mandrews. So, but anyway, I think we talked enough on the offensive side from the Browns. Now I'm going to flip it to the other side, the defense. How is the Browns defense going to be able, or what do you think they're going to be doing to slow down the Ravens?
Not much, in my opinion. I don't see them doing much here. The one saving grace that the Browns will have, I think they have a couple of things, right? Ravens, as much as they run the ball, they tend to like to run the ball on stretches a lot more often than they do up the middle, but I think they'll change for this week's game because the Browns' issue with stopping the run isn't going to be at the edge. Like, they can stop some of these, stretch plays that they throw out there. Like, they'll be fine on doing that. They have athleticism on both sides of the ball. Both sides of the line. And, they have decent linebackers for run coverage. It's just inside. It's just so weak. The linebackers aren't really great in that area. You have Larry Ogunjobi, who's a good pass rusher from the position, but I've gone on enough rants about how bad of a interior run stuffer I think he is. And then Sheldon Richardson, unless he turns into the Sheldon Richardson that was in New York, he's not going to do much to plug that gap. And then, you got somebody like Andrew Billings, who you would hope to be that plug for this defense. And, he opted out for good reason. And now he's not going to be out there anymore. And you don't really got a replacement because the two guys they had competing for that spot, Eli Anku and Daniel Akwale, both got cut. And they just signed some dude off of, I believe, the Giants waiver wire. So not great confidence I have in that interior defensive line. And if Harbaugh's smart, he's going to run Mark Ingram up the middle 1,000,000 times because that's exactly what I would do. Now, as far as the other things the Ravens are going to do, I worry about what the plan is for Lamar Jackson. I thought Grant Delpit was going to be a major part of this game plan to slow down Lamar Jackson because he's probably the only guy with enough size and athleticism to kind of not stop Lamar Jackson, but at least not get dusted by him consistently. Now you're going to be in a position where Andrew Sadejo or, Ronnie Harrison are going to have to be asked to do that. But Ronnie Harrison's a big guy. He's not necessarily a fast guy. Ran a 4.67 at his pro day, so not somebody who's going to track down across the field and stop Lamar Jackson from juking him out at all. Like, that's not going to happen there. So I worry about that. I think Harrison is going to help when it comes to slowing down the tight ends. I think that's where they're going to keep him at. And, they're just going to put their fingers together and pray that Taki can get a hand on Lamar Jackson whenever Lamar Jackson, pulls that ball out or decides he's going to run. But other than that, they don't have a great plan to stop the Ravens. Like, they're not really built that well to stop the Ravens. Like, maybe if the secondary steps up, they can, but I have questions about how well they can tackle. So, I just don't think this is going to be the game where the Ravens are going to look like they got figured out offensively. Like, every time the Ravens lose, right, they got figured out. So I don't think that's going to be the narrative coming from this game. I think this is going to be a pretty, I don't want to say high-scoring affair, but it's going to be a game that's not going to be void of touchdowns and good offense.
Okay, hold on, because we have a donation here. It's a question for you. CEO Top Dog says, when are your Browns getting a new QB? Because as we all know, Baker ain't it. So I will say that before I let Quincy talk, I think Baker's on notice. This is the year. If he plays like last year, he has weapons, he has O-line, he has a good tight end, he has the good receivers. If he doesn't play well this year, I would say they'd probably be looking. They would probably, because if he doesn't play well, you're talking about a team that doesn't make the playoffs. So they're probably looking to probably upgrade a quarterback, in my opinion. If the other way goes around, if he goes back to more like year one, which is what I expect at least, giving the O-line, then I think he stays. But Quincy, what do you think?
All right, so I have two answers to that. One, as far as this organization and any read you can get, there's like that quick hook narrative on Baker Mayfield that only exists because somebody who used to work with the Minnesota Vikings said it might be true. Mike Tannenbaum, he just floated that out, and then that became like, oh, that's the narrative. So if you think Baker Mayfield's on a quick leash or short leash this year, that's not true.
Okay.
If you watch camp, it's clearly Baker Mayfield's team. They're not really planning for Baker Mayfield not to be out there. He's looked good throughout camp too, so I expect him to bounce back and have a good year. But yeah, if he does have a terrible year, I think the next year he's going to be on the hook. The next year is going to be a big question for him because that's when his fifth-year option is going to be in play. That's when you're going to have to start asking yourself if you're going to give him money. So yeah, he'll be in the Mitchell Trubisky situation if he has a bad year this year and starts off next year bad. But as far as the near future, not. So you're asking me when the Browns are going to be getting a new quarterback? Let's see, 5-year deals are pretty standard after your first year, and then he has the 1 year here. I would say probably about 6-7 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so going back to your comment, I think one of the things is the Ravens, if they do everything like last year, I expect them to change a little bit. But actually, how they used to attack team was we don't run the stretch unless it's a quarterback. That's what Lamar does. He keeps and runs outside. Inside, there's Mark Ingram, and this year your boy Dobbins, right? Those are the two. This is the doses that we're going to give you inside. I think that tends to play bad against the Browns. So this game, if the Browns let the Ravens run loose, it's going to be a long game because not only the idea is the Ravens can put yardage on the run, the defense stays rested. That opens the passing game. And I expected the Ravens to have a decent game on the pass. I do think they're going to exploit the run against the Browns because that's where the Browns are weaker than the passing side. But that's where I think. Now, saying all that, I think the Browns are gonna, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, are gonna try to stack that box early in the game. They're gonna say, you know what, F it, you guys throw. And fun matchups that I can't wait to see is Ward against Hollywood Brown, right? I want to see your new safety from Jacksonville. His name is escaping me. Harris against Mandrews, right? And then Boykins, or one of the rookies, either Prochet or Duvernay, against Greedy, right? So how do you think those matchups will go for the Browns? Like if you keep those three on, an island, just man up, maybe a heat single hive, but for the most part, boxing everybody there. How do you think that will go for the Browns?
Well, for Greedy, he might be out for this week's game.
Ooh.
He's been out for the last few weeks of camp. They have Terrence Mitchell back there. I honestly think Terrence Mitchell might be who is going to get more playing time in this kind of a game because he's a better tackler, and he's just more of a veteran kind of player, and he's just a little bit better in zone than Greedy is. So that being said, with those three matching up, I like the matchup between Hollywood and Denzel Ward for Denzel Ward because if there's one guy in this division that plays cornerback that has the long speed to keep up with Hollywood Brown, it definitely is Denzel Ward. They both ran similar 40 times, both blazing fast players. So, with the speed normally being such an issue when it comes to Marquise Brown, I think Denzel Ward is one of the few corners who's actually qualified to keep up with him. And with Denzel Ward, I worry about him more when he has to go up against bigger physical guys. And it's not because he's not willing to go up against bigger physical guys. It's because he's too willing to go up against bigger physical guys. He tries to make too many plays, and then he'll either get burnt, injured, or just flat out miss a tackle. So being that, Marquise Brown isn't really necessarily the biggest guy, I think that matches up pretty well with Denzel Ward and Marquise Brown, also second-year player. So not necessarily I'm not saying he's unskilled. Please don't get on me saying he's unskilled. But what I am saying is that he's not going to have as many tricks in his bag as a veteran wide receiver would at this point. And those are the things that kind of throw Denzel off. If you had to put him against, Antonio Brown like 2018, like that, those are the type of receivers that drive him a little bit crazy. Marquise Brown, not at that point in his development yet, at least from my perspective. We'll see. He might come out and look like his cousin or uncle or whatever the relation is between those two at the start of the season, and I'll be out here slack-jawed staring at Marquise Brown with 200 yards. But I like the matchup there. Everywhere else, I like the Browns matchup. Like Terrence Mitchell matches up well. And then with linebackers, with the linebacking, I hope the plan is to have Ronnie Harrison there as like this flex defender that can get on top of those tight ends, because outside of that, Taki and BJ Goodson, not necessarily the best coverage linebackers in the world. I think that's a little bit understating it at this point. They're solid guys against the run. They're bad in coverage. So, linebacker might have a little bit of tight ends might have a little bit of a field day.
Okay, before I go to the question here, you know what? Let me go to the question because if not, I'm gonna forget here. CEO Top Dog again says, and by the way, shout out to you. Thank you for the donation. The Browns coach is suspect. Many around the league are not excited about his hire. How do Browns fans feel about him? I actually like Stefanski, to be honest. The only criticism that and then you can take it, Quincy. The only criticism that I had about Stefanski is I thought the Browns wanted a bigger personality. I thought they were gonna go after the coordinator. His name is escaping me, from San Francisco. I think Stefanski is good as long as he can keep that locker room in check. He's gonna be fine. It's way better than Freddie Kitchens. Like last year, Quincy, as soon as they hired Freddie Kitchens, I told Quincy like, "You're in trouble with coaching." This year, I haven't told him like, "Yo, you guys are in trouble in coaching." I actually think Stefanski is an upgrade. I don't know if he's going to be a great coach, but at least an upgrade from last year. But Quincy, what do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting. He thinks the coach is suspect because honestly, one of the things coming into camp that I might have been worried about, but really wasn't even that worried about at that point, was the coach. I feel great about Kevin Stefanski, to be honest with you. Most Browns fans feel pretty good about Kevin Stefanski. It comes out in some of the bigger things and some of the smaller things. One, I know exactly what this offense is going to look like and what they're going to do and what their identity is going to be. Couldn't say that about Freddie Kitchens at any point last season, let alone in training camp. That's a mark of a good head coach. You know what the Ravens are going to do every year. You know what they're planning to do. You know what their identity is. That's a sign of a good coach. Also, tell me about all these headlines you've heard come out of Cleveland this year. I'll wait. Nothing's come out. Everybody talks about all these personalities on this team, and I kind of just laugh when I hear that because I have not heard a single thing from Odell. I've not heard a single thing from Jarvis, a single thing from all these guys that people are saying that are going to be personality locker room issues. They've been fine. And they went through the ringer last year with Freddie Kitchens and didn't explode. Kevin Stefanski runs a much more competent ship. So I don't know how this is going to work out as him as a game coach, right? Because you could do all the other stuff good and not be a great game coach. But as far as everything else that goes into this, look, he's handled an unprecedented situation. And he's handled it with some of the most competent thinking that I've seen an NFL coach in Cleveland do in quite a while. The pandemic has not been an issue for him. All of the scheduling change. Like, think about that for a coach, by the way. They didn't release what the terms and the structure was going to be for this training camp till like 2 days before camp was set. People were set to report to camp. So if you're a head coach, you had 2 days to structure this whole thing. You would be forgiven if this looked like an absolute mess and you're a new head coach. It's not looked like a mess. It's looked fine. I like everything he's done. He's made some smart decisions, not had any goofy quotes come out in the media like Freddie Kitchens had all year. Players have been buying into the message. The message is no bark, all bite. And so far, ain't really been that much barking on the Brown side. So that's a sign of a locker room buying in. And, I think those are all good signs. Now, again, he could be an awful in-game coach. But from everything that I can read from just the outside looking in, from watching all of these camps, this is the thing that has jumped out to me is just competence. And that's something that you need when you have all this talent on this team, because you don't need a genius. You don't need Josh McDaniels. You don't need Bill Belichick to run you just need competence, because you have talent like Odell and Jarvis and Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb and Austin Hooper, because you don't have to be a genius to get them the ball. They're just really good at football. So I actually feel really good about this team. I think he's the right guy. I was kind of skeptical about the hire at the first, but he's kind of made me a lot more comfortable. He's been the personality that they needed there. I thought they were going to go with the veteran guy, but, he's come off like a veteran guy. Like, honestly, I feel like he's been coaching the Browns much longer than what he's been coaching about the Browns have. Like, it shocks me every time I think of him as a first-year head coach, because maybe this offseason has just been super long, but it just feels like he's been with the team much longer because of how he carries himself and how this team has responded to him so far.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Stefanski was the Kitchen needed to go. Let's be honest. Kitchen, I actually never thought or understood why they hired him. I understand why, because they wanted to keep Baker happy. Baker like Kitchen, but Kitchen never was an OC, and he went from a temporary OC to a head coach, and it was over to his head. Now, I think this game has the opportunity with a lot of good matchups, right? If you think about it, in the case of Ravens offensive line, you have Myles Garrett against Stanley. I love to watch those matchups. Last year, or Stanley knows Myles Garrett by now. Garrett knows Stanley, right? And also, I think for the Ravens, obviously, like I said, Wills with maybe Bowser. Maybe in this game they go ahead and put Jurang, although Jurang usually comes from the right side. But I think Calais Campbell's going to be from that left side. And also, if your center really goes to the rookie, Big Baby is going to test your rookie from the get-go. So that's going to be another interesting matchup. And also, you think about this matchup that I think is Patrick Queen. How is Patrick Queen going to play? How is Patrick Queen going to play if he has to? I'm not as worried about Shupp, to be honest. I'm more worried about the second guy, Hunt, in the open field, meaning I'm not talking about running between the tackles. I think Shupp is better between the tackles, although Hunt is very talented. But Shupp, I remember when he was in Kansas City in the passing game, he was a nightmare. And if I was the Browns, that's what one of the things that I'll be testing. If I'm the Browns, a couple of things that I'll be testing. Let me see how this rookie Queen can keep up with my running back, right? If I see that I can put in a matchup, I can maybe put Hunt on the outside and let him play against Queen. The other matchup that I can see the Browns exploiting is, let's go deep. They don't have Earl Thomas. Let me see how this kid, Elliott, does against the pass. What do you think? You think the Browns are going to exploit those matchups, or what do you think the outcome of those matchups will be?
So again, I said earlier, I think play action is going to be a huge part in the game plan for the Browns, because you have those younger players that might make the wrong decision, trying to bite on the play action or not. Also, I think the three names that have looked like star players throughout Browns camp are Odell Beckham, Kareem Hunt, and Nick Chubb. Those three have looked amazing throughout camp. Like, Odell has looked like Odell in a way that he didn't last year. Kareem Hunt, he's looked very good, like spectacular. Like, he has burst. He's really good in between the tackles when they ask him to do that. He can catch really well. Like he is. Nick Chubb's not a slow guy. We know that. And anybody who's in this chat that watched the game last year, y'all know Nick Chubb ain't slow. He had the number 3 speed in the NFL when he broke off that 83-yard touchdown last year, 20-something miles per hour. Nick Chubb's not a slow dude or a slow-footed dude. But when Kareem Hunt goes out there after Nick Chubb, Nick Chubb looks so slow compared to Kareem Hunt. And I think that's a credit to how fast and explosive Kareem Hunt is. Because it's not like Nick Chubb looks slow out here in camp either. And then Odell, it looks special. He looks very athletic. He looks like he's having fun again. It looks like him and Baker are having a better connection they did last year. Those are the three guys that I'm like, if this team's going to go anywhere, it's going to be on the backs of those guys. And then you add in with guys like Harrison Bryant and Austin Hooper and Baker Mayfield. But yeah, those three look spectacular. And I'm interested to see the matchup between Marlon Humphreys and Odell. Now, I don't know if the Ravens are going to plan on having Marlon Humphreys against Odell. It would make a lot of sense, but maybe they'll think, well, Jarvis is the one who killed us last game, so maybe flip it and put Peters on him. I think that would be a bad decision, honestly, because Marlon Humphreys is more equipped to handle him. And maybe without Earl Thomas being over top, they'll be more hesitant with how they have those one-on-one matchups because Odell is a bit faster than Marlon Humphreys. It's not like Marlon Humphreys is slow. It's just he's faster than him. So it'd be interesting to see how that matchup goes. I think Odell will have a better showing than he did last year in this game. I think Jarvis is probably not going to go off for that much. And again, I expect the tight ends to have big games. But yeah, you're right. Kareem Hunt as a pass catcher on those angle routes, he's going to be dangerous. He was pretty good last year off of them, but he looks a step faster than he did last year. Like he looks like last year, I thought he was a good back. I didn't see how he led the league in rushing yards. This camp, I'm like, oh, this is a dude who led the league in rushing yards. And that's going to be very important for the Browns, especially with the amount of checkdowns that they're going to be taking that they didn't take last year. So going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think, and that's where you hope as a Raven fan, that's where you hope Queen, because Queen is known by his explosiveness. That's where you want Queen to hopefully keep up with Hunt. Now, I will say, I'm expecting Queen to get a couple of times burned by Hunt, because Hunt by now is a savvy veteran. And it's not like Hunt is just running a dragger, right? No, he will make some move to try to move Queen, right? Now, going back to what you said, I expect actually the Ravens since last year, they got Marlon and they say Marlon, that's the best dude. And usually for I would say 80% plus, they say that's the dude you're gonna follow, right? Even when the dude goes to the slot, Marlon follows the guy. I think this year, because now we had three big, tall, strong corners, I'm expecting now also to have Jimmy Smith maybe in the slot against Jarvis Landry, or a not as tall corner but really good. And I'm expecting also the Browns to test him because he was out for a year. Was Tavon Young? Tavon Young before last year was a great slot corner. A year off, he will have some rust. We'll see how he goes, but I'm expecting the Browns to test him out. And if he lines against Jarvis, Landry's a big body dude. And he's not a guy that likes to catch the ball here. He likes to catch the ball up, right? And Baker knows that. So against Tavon Young, that could be a matchup problem for the Ravens. And I would expect them probably to move Marcus Peters and say, yo, you're going to take this dude. Marlon, you're going to take the other guy. Jimmy, we'll move you around and see how it is. But again, I think for the Browns offense, I'm expecting, like you said, a heavy dose of the running back. I'm expecting to see actually Kareem Hunt, and they are going to test the rookie linebacker in our case. I think if the Browns don't test the rookie linebackers, I don't know what they're doing for the game plan.
Yeah, I honestly think the Browns are going to try to avoid, honestly, putting more than two wide receivers out there for that specific reason, because you want the Ravens to put out more linebackers than DBs. You want to limit how often the Tavon Young can get snaps, because you don't want him out there. You don't want all these DBs out there, because that's one of the Ravens' strengths. They have the best secondary, I think one of the best secondaries in the NFL. So you want to limit that. And I think that's why they're probably going to be in these tight end heavy formations, because that limits the amount of play that some of these DBs can get that can really affect the game. And again, also Baker Mayfield, a consistent stat throughout his career has been, if you keep him under 30 passing attempts, he's actually really good. Once he goes above 30, that usually means you're asking him to do too much. You're asking him to make too many plays. You're asking him to make things happen when they're not there. And that's when the interceptions come. You know, his heavy interception games, usually when he throws up to 40, 45 passing attempts, which is fine. A lot of quarterbacks shouldn't really throw the ball more than 30 times because it just gets away from what their team does as a strength. So that's going to be something that's going to be interesting to see how they handle that. And I think that's why the Browns in their game plan, they're really going to think of this from a perspective of how do we keep the DBs off the field? How do we make them play more linebackers? How do we force their hand that way? And then what do we do if we can force their hand that way? And that's when the tight ends come in. That's when the play action comes in. So I think that's probably going to be the Browns game plan coming in. Now, I'm not an NFL coach. I could be completely wrong on that. But if I were game planning the game, that's exactly what I would do.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think how the Ravens are probably going to attack the Browns is similar. I think they're going to try to run the middle early. They're going to try to pound the ball in the middle. And then as soon as they see the middle collapsing, you're going to see Lamar keeping and running some stretch. And when they see the box up, like tight, they're going to try to hit some of the deep throws. They're going to try to mismatch with Manders in the middle of the field because that's what they love to do. And they're going to try to hit Hollywood on the corners. And the report is that he has been working with Hollywood to hit that outside corner. So I'm expecting them to, if they see the box, brought to 8 or plus in the box, to look, if they're going to try to blitz, to hit some quick passes and let the receivers, work for they open the field. That's why they brought Duvernay. That's what they brought Brown, Hollywood last year. So I can expect some of that. And Dobbins looks good in the past. Like, obviously he's a rookie, so I'm not saying he's as good as Hunt, but I haven't seen a running back look.
He's a dog. Like, I was genuinely upset when they let him get there. I think he's a game changer. I thought a team like the Patriots should have drafted him. I thought a team like Pittsburgh should have got him. Teams that need a playmaker on offense desperately. He's a playmaker. He's going to be a baller. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that J.K. Dobbins is going to be really good. I actually think for this game, though, you're probably going to want to run Gus Edwards more against the Browns because he can attack that weakness that the Browns have most, which is going to be weak tackling and weak inside running. You know what I mean? So that's really going to be the hole for the Browns there. And look, I have a little bit of a different philosophy about stopping the Ravens. I honestly think you should worry more about the Ravens passing the ball than you should running the ball because they're going to get it. Like, time and time is proven. You can put 8 people in the box, 10 people in the box. You can put the whole 11-man front in the box. It ain't really going to do much about the run situation because they can just power you and Lamar can outmaneuver you. So my philosophy is just like, hey, you're just let them have those 5, 6, 7 yard runs. Let them move down the field with those run plays. What you don't want them to do is get hot in the pass game. You don't want Mark Andrews getting those 20-yard seam balls. You don't want Marquise Brown being wide open because you're committing way too hard to the run. That's when the Ravens start to get that, the Ravens offense kind of moves like a snowball going downhill. It starts off and then it just starts rumbling and tumbling. And it's like that Rams game where you can't stop them at that point when they really get going downhill. And what I think allows them to get downhill is when they're able to get hot in the pass game. Like, whenever Lamar has a ton of passing touchdowns, that's when those highlights are going to be ridiculous when you watch them on NFL.com. Because that's when they're at their best, is when Lamar can really get going with the passing game. So if I'm the Browns, look, I'm going to come out there and shock them. I'll put 5 DBs out there, 2 linebackers, and just the 4 people down there and just beg them to just keep running the ball. Because as long as they run the ball, you can control that. You're not going to give an 80-run touchdown up every drive. You can give up a 40-yard pass every drive. So it contains it. It slows the game down a little bit. And for the Browns, I think that's going to be more successful. And then if you're the Browns, let's be honest here, beating the Ravens means you're going to have to try to force a turnover and try to get, a double-digit lead on them to try to force them to change and force them to stop running as much. But, I don't know. My philosophy with the Ravens has always been just let them have it on the ground. Like, let them win on the ground. Don't let Lamar get hot in that pass game, because once that happens, your linebackers don't know what the hell to do. Everybody's like, oh, and then Lamar just goes highlight reel on everybody, because when he's on in that pass game, he's unstoppable. He's flat out the most unstoppable player in the NFL when he can get that pass game going. If he's just running, he's dangerous. But you know what? You can beat dangerous. You can't beat unstoppable. And that allows him to get unstoppable, in my opinion.
So, guys, I'm gonna be taking a couple questions here, but before we keep going, I want to make sure you guys know tomorrow AFC North Talk is gonna come at the new time. So we moved the day to Tuesdays. Now we're moving also the time. It's gonna be 5:45 p.m. Eastern time. Okay, so come join us. There's gonna be score prediction. We're gonna go preview the games, right? Not only the Ravens, the Browns. We're gonna go the Bengals and the Steelers. This week are probably gonna give a little bit harder because there's a divisional game. Next week there's another divisional game, and those we're gonna highlight a little bit more. But hey, you need to go join us because the style that we do in right now for this behind enemy line is not gonna be like this tomorrow. So you have to join, okay? Anyway, here's a question for you. Do you think Harris O'Brien will be the starter against Baltimore week 1?
He's going to be the second tight end. That's been clear throughout camp. He's beaten out Njoku. Njoku had the second tight end job. I don't know what the situation was with Njoku with his trade request. I've been very vocal about the fact that he has no trade value and never really had much to begin with. But now he got beat out by Harrison Bryant. He can't, and I've always said this: when you come to tight end 2, you need a specific skill set to play tight end 2, which is reliable catcher of the football, decent enough route runner, but good blocker. You need to be a good blocker to be that second tight end. And, Joku's none of those things. He's not reliable at catching the football. He's athletic, but he's not a great route runner. And he's an awful blocker. He's an awful blocker in like pass situations and run situations. So, it doesn't surprise me that that's been the case. But yeah, I think Harrison Bryant's probably going to see a significant role. And don't be surprised if you see Stephen Carlson out there a little bit more than you see David Njoku, because Stephen Carlson can block and is a short catcher of the football. And that's what you need from your tight end.
So I have a question here. This is a little bit more for me. If LJ Ford does well, I think yes, they probably will, because the reality is LJ Ford's value monetary is not going to be as high, and then if he becomes linebacker 2 or 3, depending how hard Harrison does, it's not gonna break your bank, right? It's not gonna break your bank. Anyway, here I have my guy Mick the dog here. This is more.
Baby Gronk. I call him Baby Gronk kind of jokingly.
Baby Gronk.
He's a good catcher at the football, decent enough blocker, reliable hands guy. He wasn't the best blocker in camp that was Farrell Brown, but Farrell Brown got into too many fights and, he's not as reliable, so he didn't end up making the team. But yeah, Carlson is a nice third tight end. Again, good third tight end to have there. He was a decent second tight end, I think, for some of last year as well.
Yeah, so guys, look. We have been here going to 40 plus minutes, and I was waiting for this question. Final score prediction. And we are giving you a score prediction tomorrow. We didn't want to spoil this. And usually behind any lines, you will get a score prediction. Usually I give it to the person that I'm bringing behind enemy lines, but we're gonna be live tomorrow. That score prediction is gonna be there, and also there's gonna be a video that I'm gonna be doing separate from my game preview, where I'm gonna break the edges that we have, where we're gonna have weakness and all that a little bit more in depth. So stay tuned for that one video. Okay, so here's some comments. Quinn will get an interception. Here's your boy Mick the dog. Shout out to him. I like Mick the dog. Browns winning 28-21.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Baker Mayfield does usually have his best games against the Ravens. All I'm saying is that everybody in here talking about all these interceptions Baker's going to throw. He's kind of played his best against the Ravens. Like he threw a couple, I think, that game in 2018, but he also threw like 3 against what was one of the best defenses in the NFL at that point. That was the year that you guys kind of snuck into the playoffs because we did not beat the Steelers. The Steelers, yeah, that was that game. So, be interested to see what Baker Mayfield does. I don't think they're going to be super reliant on him. I don't think they're going to give him a lot of situations where he can throw a ton of interceptions. I think that's where coaching comes into it. But we'll see what happens with those interceptions. And we'll see if Patrick Queen is ready to be in those right positions to get those interceptions, because that's also a factor. I mean, we all know how Peanut played in Week 4 last year.
So, going back to your point, Baker last year, game 1, 30 attempts, 20 completions, 342 yards, a touchdown and a pick. That was a great game for him. Plus, Nick Chubb, like I said, $165, 3 touchdowns, and Jarvis added 167 yards of that. He had a hell of a game, and Ricky Seals-Jones also had a good game. But now, that game, our defense was hurting, right? We upgraded D linemen and corners. we are weaker at safety, you can say. Now, game 2, where we had at least all corners together, Baker similar, 33 attempts, 20 completions, fairly similar. Only 192 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. The problem was they said everybody else won't beat me. So Kareem Hunt didn't have a good. Well, he barely was any factor. And Nick Chubb was also not factor. I think that is definitely the difference there. Okay, so here's a question.
Ask me a kicker question. Oh man, look, I'm not going to go off on Austin Cybert, but I am happy to see that they put Cody Parkey in the practice squad. Cody Parkey, the Browns actually had Cody Parkey. I forget what year, but I think it was 15 or 16. It was one of those god awful Hugh Jackson years. I'm glad they have somebody that if he does a Zane Gonzalez, you can bring in somebody automatically.
Okay, and we're gonna take a couple more questions as we're wrapping up. Here you go. Here's another one. Quincy, are you worried about chemistry between Baker and Hooper? I think the chemistry between Baker and Hooper and the run game will have a lot to do with Baker having a good season. What about you?
Okay, so the first part of that question, the chemistry with Baker and Hooper, some of the things people don't know about the Baker-Hooper connection was the second that Austin Hooper signed in Cleveland, he actually spent, I believe, like a month with Baker Mayfield before the season, just kind of getting on the right page. And then Baker Mayfield had another camp in the offseason period where he had more guys come down. Austin Hooper was, of course, a part of that. And it looks like it's paid off throughout camp. Like those two look like they have good chemistry. It looks like they're not trying to find each other. It looks like the timing's really good. Like they look like they're on good footing with each other and be able to be productive. So yeah, I do think that chemistry is going to be important. I do think it's actually going to be in a better place than people expect because the more work has been put in than people know. And yeah, if Hooper and Baker have a good connection, good chemistry, this run game is going to benefit. Like the tight ends being a threat in the receiving game, because in the receiving area of the game is such a big factor. I think people don't talk about enough. That really does allow things to open up for the offense because who do tight ends occupy in the defense? They occupy those linebackers. Who matters a lot in run coverage? Linebackers. So if you have those guys second guessing what they need to do or what Harrison Bryant or even Austin Hooper is going to do, then you have some chance in some of these run plays. Then some of the trick stuff can work. You just have a better shot if you can get that tight end going, especially in an offense like Cleveland's. Because look, they run that Shanahan system. When does that Shanahan system look great? George Kittle, so you're gonna have to have good production from your tight ends in order for it to work.
And shout out to CEO Top Dog for another donation. Do you see Browns picking up Mr. Earl Thomas?
I said this on Twitter after he got released. People were asking me, the Browns need a free safety. Are they going to go Earl Thomas? All right. So one, my read of that whole situation in Baltimore, more than anything, was that Earl Thomas was not happy in your zone mix cover 3. Like for whatever reason, he was not happy with what he was asked to do. He wasn't happy with the blitzing. He wanted to just kind of be the road runner and travel around the field and do whatever he pleased, which he could do in that cover 1, man that they ran in Seattle, where he was just the guy in the middle who does whatever the hell he wants. Now, not really the situation anymore in Baltimore, and he wasn't happy with that. So he had problems with that, and he rebelled. If he comes to Cleveland and he wasn't happy with what Baltimore did, which was similar to what he did in Seattle in some ways, he really ain't going to be happy playing quarters, because that's what the Browns are going to be running. He's not going to be able to cover as much space, and he's going to be really frustrated with that. So, no, I don't think Earl Thomas is going to be in here because that's not a fit for him. And I think the key thing, if you're going to bring in Earl Thomas, just make sure what you're asking him to do is what he wants to do, because then he'll be a happy Earl Thomas and you want to worry about it. But if you're going to bring Earl Thomas into a position where, he's not really happy to be in, he's going to be what he did. He's going to have more situations like he had this camp in Baltimore.
Yeah, at this point, guys, I don't think Earl Thomas is going anywhere unless a contender gets a major injury in a safety position, and they're going to bring him because it's it's low risk, high reward, right? And they can cut him and cut their loss if they bring him. There's a question here. I can't find it right now, but somebody asked me, are we going to trade Mark Ingram? No, I don't think we're going to trade Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram will be, if he is traded, will be next year. He is a locker room guy. Everybody in the locker room loves him. And he's gonna be a mentor for Dobbins. Next year, Dobbins will be the guy. This year will be a dose of both of them. And if Dobbins balls out, then you see Ingram's carries go down or Dobbins will increase. But people in the locker room love him. So I doubt that we trade him this year, maybe in the future, but not this year. Here's some other score predictions.
Terry thinks the Browns are going to beat them out 42-7. Thank you, Terry.
I think it's the other way around, but
no. He think the Browns are going to outdo what they did last year, 40-25 to 42-7. Wow, Terry. Shout out to you, Terry.
So here's from Austin says, do you think Harbaugh lets offensive rookies get significant snaps so to let them get game experience or just work them in through the season? Look, Harbaugh ain't about that life to just, oh yeah, let me give you some snaps here. No, he's trying to win the game, especially the division game. Now, I do think the rookies receivers will get snaps here and there. I think Dobbins is more of a short to get snaps. And all reports right now are that the rookie, which for me was a surprise, Phillips beat Fluker for the right guard position. That for me was shocking. I'm not going to lie. But if that is the case, I'm happy. If the rookie beat a veteran, I'm happy. Because Harbaugh is not about also, or at least he has never done this, to give a rookie a pass like, yo, we drafted you. But a la Ben Powers last year, we drafted him. He hasn't played a snap, right? So I'm excited for that. I want to see the rookie in the right guard position if he really beat the veteran Fluker.
Definitely.
Okay, guys.
About that right side of the offensive line. I've asked every Ravens guy I'm on there. So we know Marshall Yonder retired, right? The right guard. Now, we know the offensive lineman that you're next to is really kind of pivotal to the young guy that he's usually next to. So Orlando Brown, not having that veteran right guard there anymore, that Hall of Fame quality right guard in Marshall Yonder, do you think that's going to affect his play?
If it was year one, maybe. Like, not a rookie, but a year after rookie year, maybe. At this point, Orlando Brown is seasoned. It's seasoned enough that, you know, he should be fine. He learned what he needed to learn from Yanda. Also, he has a guy like Stanley where he compare notes, and Stanley and him are tight and all that. I think if it was last year, I would have been more worried for sure. If anything, I'm more worried if you tell me about that right guard rookie, because in the middle, if Skura was having a Pro Bowl year until he got injured, right? I'm not even sure how he's playing, because I thought he was not going to be ready for week one, but all the reports says he's ready for week one. He blew up his knee completely last year, the Rams game, so that was late in the year. But he's supposed to be back. If he's back, that helps because he's a veteran in his fourth year. And then you have Brown, so the rookies between two fairly veterans, Brown going to his third, and then you have Skura in the center. And then the left guard, we still have a guy that started all 16 games last year. So, yes, the right side to center is the question. The right guard, I think Orlando Brown should be fine. If you want to test Orlando Brown, how you testing is with speed, right? Because Orlando Brown is a mountain of a man. He was fairly quick for that big, but look, we haven't played Denver since we got Orlando Brown, at least not that I remember. But a guy like Von Miller, I can see him having problems. Oh, you know what? A guy like TJ Watt also. But what the Ravens have been doing is they usually put somebody there, a tight end, just to chip the TJ Watt inside. And once you're inside Orlando Brown, the dude is massive. It's hard to go around this dude.
Yeah, it's a good thing to ask. You know, I think they're going to play a lot of Myles Garrett opposite of Orlando Brown and that rookie right guard or whatever the right guard situation is for you guys. It's going to be interesting to see. Also, you're not keeping as many tight ends, you know, like that's going to factor into the protection. So, you know, if you keep Nick Boyle out there, then when you're throwing Picard out there as the other tight end, but then you're losing him as well as into the blocking scheme as well. So you might want to keep him there. And then you don't have Boyle or you don't have Andrews. It's going to be a real question for them about the protection. We're going to find out because I think Myles Garrett is really going to attack that right side of that offensive line. I think they're going to just hope Myles Garrett can wreck the game from that position. And, you know, you talk about Orlando Brown. He kind of reminds me a lot of Villanueva in Pittsburgh. Big guy, long guy, not necessarily the fastest, but quick for his size. And Myles Garrett tears up Villanueva every time he plays him because Myles can bend, dip, and he's so fast around that edge. Mm-hmm. And he's strong, too. So Myles Garrett not a weak guy at all. I think he matches up well. I think it would be smart for the Browns to just kind of plop Olivier Vernon on Ronnie Stanley and just see what happens there, because Ronnie's probably going to win that battle. But win that battle with Myles Garrett and Orlando Brown there to try to disrupt that pocket a little bit.
Yep. Okay, my guys, it's going to be close to an hour, so we're going to wrap up here. But don't forget, tomorrow, AFC North Talk. We're going to give predictions. We're going to talk about this game. Also, our other co-hosts are going to talk about this game. We're talking about Ace and Tony. The schedule for this channel for the rest of the week is going to be tomorrow, going to be in the AFC North Talk. On Wednesday with Nubu. On Thursday, there's a video coming out, the preview of this game. And then after the game is over, I'm throwing the video what I love and hate it from that game. So stay tuned for all that. And there's going to be another Behind Enemy Lines next week. I have a Texans YouTuber, so stay up for that. Quincy, where they can find you?
Find me on youtube.com/Quincy Carrier. Also, you can find me on AFC North Talk. Subscribe to all of those things. But first, make sure you subscribe to szg Sports. You're a Ravens fan, you ain't subscribed. What are you doing? Come on. Subscribe to the guy. He's part of AFC North Talk, which means he's really good. So that's all.
Hey, and last but not least, I will tell you this throughout. On halftime, during the game, I'm going to be doing a IG live. So stay tuned. If you haven't followed me on IG, follow me. It's SCG Sport everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, IG. Just follow me there. Hey, guys, thank you for joining us tonight. Have a great rest of your night. See you tomorrow, 5:45 Eastern. Take care.